Okay, welcome. This is the first video in a series that I'm going to do where we're going to try to make essentially a 2.0 version of Evel Knievel, and we're going to do it as if it's a kit that you can buy, because that's the ultimate goal, is to be able to create a system that people can buy all the different parts, and these videos will basically show you how to put it all together. Now, this particular playfield, because we want to use modern parts with it, we're going to do some modifications to this playfield, and hopefully this is something that can be done automatically beforehand. But I just want to show you in advance of what it is we're going to do. So for these thumpers, even though you could probably buy the old style thumper parts, to make it easier to be in kit format, we're going to cut out a circle here that then uses the all-in-one style thumper that just pops in from the bottom. This can be one of the most difficult things to actually assemble correctly and get it dialed in and tuned correctly. So we're going to do that. We're going to cut these holes for these thumpers, and then we're also going to add one of the more modern troughs for this, for a couple of reasons. Not just because these parts are actually harder to find as a reproduction, but also it would enable some 2.0 rules where you could actually make this a multi-ball game, and do things like ball save, because we're also going to add like an auto launcher here, so it makes it easier to do ball save with an auto launch and things like that. But we need to cut out a different set of holes here for the 6-ball trough and the auto launcher. All right, to make these modifications, I'm going to be using a Shaper Origin, which is it's like a CNC router. But we need to mount this underneath here. This is a wasteboard. We need to mount this playfield securely to the wasteboard first. And to do that, I'm going to use the existing holes that are in these rails here, and use screws to hold that flush. But the first thing I need to do is I need to countersink these holes, because I need the entire thing to be flush as the router comes around. All right, so I'm going to do that first. All right, we're going to start by countersinking a few of these holes. The side rails will cover up the countersink, and we're going to try, because we're going to be cutting in this area and this area, we want to keep it as far away, so we're going to put as far away from the lower section, because we need to cut here. So we're going to put the screws in, maybe 3 screws here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm using this countersink bit and a drill. And we're going to use number 6 screws, which is what would normally be in there. But we only need to go down like maybe 1/4 of an inch. All right, so we're going to do here, here, and here. Make sure this is square. About like that. Just make sure that that head goes in there. Yes. Yes. All right, and then now this side. Okay. All right, now to put the screws in. These are flathead screws, Phillips, and just make sure that it's flush, because the router is going to come over this. We don't want it catching on that. I'm going to do We'll do all 6 of these. And this is because we don't want the playfield moving as we're doing the router. So it needs to be secure to the table and to the wasteboard. All right, I'm going to do all 6 of these, and then we'll come back. Okay, for the shaper origin, we need to put down some of this domino tape for the computer vision to track. And we're also going to put, we're going to try to cover as much of the playfield as possible with this blue masking tape to protect the finish, because we don't want the router moving around to scratch up the surface. So we're going to try and put as much of this as we can over the areas that we want to protect. Okay, so we put all our protective masking tape through most of it, leaving these areas open because we need to see where the circular section where we want to put the thumper opening. And then we've left this open. It needs less protection, but also this is where we're going to be cutting the slot for the switch for the auto launch, and then the trough, and there's going to be a little bit of a cutout here for the trough. All right, now we're going to put on the tracking tape, and for the trough and the auto launch, we're going to be aimed this way, so we want our tracking tape out in front here. And then when we cut the thumpers, we'll come over, we'll move to this side and cut from this direction, and then our tracking tape will be here. So we'll put most of our tracking tape in this section here. All right, I'm gonna do that now. All right, so what I do with this tracking tape is instead of tearing it, I cut it so that we maximize the number of dominoes that we get. And I put it on the areas where I already have blue tape. And I'm not sure that it matters, but what I try to do is try to offset these. It's just my sort of intuition that being symmetric probably does not help. Being asymmetric actually probably has an advantage, I think. It's just my intuition. But you want to make sure these are pushed down really well, because the glue on this tape is not great. And by asymmetric, what I mean is like these are not in a line here. Having more variation gives it more things to key off of. All right, so I'm going to continue to do that in this area because we need a lot of tape in here in order for it to track consistently. Pretty much need to fill this whole area with tape. All right, I'm going to do that. I'll see you on the other side. All right, here's what the tape looks like. This is the domino tape for the shaper origin, for its computer vision to track the location of this. And again, when we're cutting from this side, the tracking is going to be here. And then when we cut from this side with the trough, the tracking is going to be this way. And you want to make sure that the adhesive on this tape isn't great, so you want to make sure these edges stay down. We may have to come back and like just keep pushing these down just to make sure that they stay down. All right, we need as many of these to be as stable as possible, otherwise we'll lose tracking and we'll have to start over. All right. All right, when we first power up the shaper origin, it's going to see this and it's going to ask to start a new scan, and the orange button is cancel, green button is start scan. And so we'll sort of aim it so that we're seeing all of the tape, make sure our tape is correct. We'll hit start scan, and the tape will sort of turn blue as it's being registered. And we'll kind of move it around until we get all of them. And you can also see that it's also mapping out, it's doing a visual of the playfield itself. And for this visual, we want to make sure that we get the areas that we're trying to cut, because that's going to be important for how we place it. So we need to get these corners here. All right, so all the dominoes tapes turn blue. And we can see we've got the full edge of the corners of the playfield there, which is what we needed. Like so. All right, and then we'll hit green to finish. And it should be creating a new workspace here. Okay, the next step is we want to import our design. Import, it's going to be looking at the USB drive. And we want to look, we'll have a file in here. And it'll be this trough cut file. And I'll try and post this on in the document so that you can find it on GitHub. Find this file. All right, so the first step is we want to place that. And you'll notice we can see the edge of the playfield as well as our cut line. We'll zoom in a little bit. And we want to move this to where our playfield matches the edge. And we want our trough to be, or sorry, the shooter lane to be sort of centered there. All right, once we feel like we got it where we want, so it looks pretty square, we hit place, the green button, place. And then we'll go to cut. Now you can see as we move around here, it'll identify lines that we want to cut. And we've set it up for 1/8 inch bit. We're on the inside with 0 offset. We'll do a Z-touch in a minute, but this 0.55, we actually want to set that to 1/8 inch to start, and we're going to do basically 4 passes because an 1/8 inch bit, we don't want to do really hard cuts, so we'll do 4 passes at roughly 1/8 inch a piece, and then our last cut will go an extra 50 thou just to make sure we're getting all the way through. Okay, so again, we're going to want to do the Z-touch first. So you hit this button here, and basically it lowers the tool until it touches the playfield. It says remove our hands because you're not supposed to be holding on to this. You hit Z-touch. It's going to drop that down. Okay, great. Now I'm going to turn on the router, and then we're going to start cutting. Okay, so that was our first cut of that section. We need to do every section, including the little mounting holes. We're going to do that. Basically, have to do the whole thing 4 times in a row, and make sure we're hitting every spot. All right, so turn it back on. Notice that I'm sort of turning the device to aim it closer to the dominoes, the tracking dominoes as I go. Okay, and then we want to get this switch slot. Now because they're in that trough, sorry, in the plunger or the shooter lane, we may not get it at the first shot. Okay. Alright, that's the first pass. Come back and get, we can change our depth of cut to 1/4 inch. And start again. All right, so we finished our first cut of the trough. Let's remove some of this dust because it's going to affect the tracking when we come back from the other side. And we can pull these out. This one's stuck on something, but we'll pull that out later. All right, and this trough, or sorry, the shooter lane looks like a little bit off, so we may have to come back in and make an adjustment to get that a little bit better. All right, now we're going to turn it around, come from this side and do those thumpers. All right, so we've come from the other side. We're going to do the same thing. We have a design for the thumper. We're going to try to center it over the existing image as close as we can. It's hard to say for sure. That looks pretty good. All right, so we're going to place that. All right, and same thing, we're going to cut, but we want to start at 1/8 inch depth. All right. And then we're going to work our way through 1/8 inch increments until we get all the way through, and then we'll move on to we're going to do each thumper one at a time. Okay, so this was the piece we cut out. Looks like it got it pretty good. I was a little concerned because the images were coming from this direction, but it looks okay. Which that would have affected our placement since we're going off of the original image. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing. We'll do this guy and then this guy, and basically place it, start back at 1/8 of an inch, and work our way through. All right. All right, so we've cut all three of these thumpers. I'm gonna have to, looks like there's like a little bit of probably a thin piece holding it together, but we'll punch that out from the back. All right, now we're ready to take all this tape off, turn off our shaper origin, take this tape off, and then we can start doing the assembly. All right. The way I like to take the tape off, just to prevent, we don't want to accidentally pull up any of the polyurethane. Just pull it like this, just very carefully. And we're not going to try to save, I'm not going to try to save the domino tape. It's expendable, so we just want to very carefully remove these, especially around areas where you've cut, like up in here. But I try to avoid putting tape where I would cut, but that's where you're at risk of pulling up the clear coat because there's an open edge. All right, this will be the end of the first video, and stay tuned for the second video. We'll start doing the assembly of the mechanical components.